Hello, cherished viewers. It's time once again for an exclusive Human Rights Talk segment just for you. And this is all because of our love for humanity and the desire we have to ensure your rights are protected and respected at all times. I'm Mama Nupe, and you are watching the Human Rights Talk with Nupes. To better understand the discussion for today, I have with me two great personalities. We have a lawyer by profession. He is Godfred Ejabin, a private legal practitioner at the Kulendi Law Firm. We also have with us Mr. Kojo Williams. He's a public relations and communications consultant. He's a co-founder at the Center for CSR West Africa and a PR consultant for the Japan International Cooperations Agency, JICA. He is also a Yali Fellow, a member of the Institute of Public Relations Ghana, Ghana Journalists Association, and the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. He is also the lead consultant for Integrity PR, a sub-regional PR agency operating in 7 West African countries. He's very well traveled. We are pleased to have you guys here with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Before we delve into the main discussion for the day, we usually talk about the fun and living segment. And the topic for today's fun and living segment is having a backup partner, whether or not it's good. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we're back, we'll delve into that. This show is powered by Nupes Foundation and Family Affairs, and also supported by Syllabytes Ghana. For all your catering needs, please do well to contact Syllabytes GH. Thank you. Welcome back. So, Kojo and Ajaben, the fun topic for today is having a backup partner. And the funny thing is today I have 2 guys in the studio, and mostly it's guys who do that. You would all attest to the fact that it's guys who usually have backup partners. So let's hear what our guys have to say today. I'm going to be disadvantaged since I'm the only lady here today. So I don't know, who do we start with?
Okay. He's the lawyer, so.
Okay, so Ajaben, tell us. What do you think about having a backup partner? Is it a good idea or not?
Well, before I will start, let me disagree with you on your point of saying men are those who are likely to do that. Let me disagree.
I expected that.
I told you. But then it is not a good choice, if you ask me.
Okay.
Because the reason why you will go for a backup partner sometimes are the reasons why you are with your partner. So if your partner is defective, and so therefore you think you are supposed to go for a backup partner, why don't you try and correct your partner? And if it is not working, you move on. Rather than go for a backup, you move on and go for who will give you what you want.
I actually like your thought process towards this thing. I like it. That's good. Let's hear what Kojo has to say.
For this particular subject, I would say that it's neither right or wrong.
Okay.
Depending on
the situation.
The situation, because we can just have a sweeping opinion and say, well, it's right or it's wrong.
Okay.
There could be some situations that demand that you need to have somebody on the side or something. But personally, it's something that I would not do.
Okay, so what are some of the instances that will require that you have a backup partner?
Well, sometimes there are some in relationships, there are expectations, that people have. I'm trying to be a realist here.
Yeah.
There are situations where, normally people will tell you that, okay, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you are in for good or for bad or whatever it is and all of that. But the reality is that people are in a relationship, they are in the relationships with other people, and they are not totally satisfied with what they think they have.
Yeah.
And they try to probably augment it with, what they get from other people. It could be financial, it could be peace of mind, it could be anything, depending on the individual's definition of what they want. Yeah. So that's why I would not say straightforward that it's a right or a wrong. Yeah. But personally, it's something that I will not practice.
Yeah, for me, I think what usually happens is having a backup partner, like just as Kojo said, I wouldn't say it's wrong or it's right, depending on the situation. If it is marriage, for me, I'll rule it out. That is completely wrong. But if it's a relationship, okay, I think there's no harm. That's like how most people would rather have open relationships. So if you're not getting too intimate with the person you are with, it's fine to have a backup partner, just in case. Okay, because just as Kojo said, there may be certain flaws in the person. And when it comes to marriage, if you're looking at choosing a partner for marriage, it's not only about love. There are so many factors that contribute to choosing a life partner, right?
And you've brought in a different and an interesting perspective, which is like marriage.
Yeah.
Having a backup partner differs. I mean, the factors are different, considering the different situations. For instance, in marriage is a different, ball game entirely. When you're not married, it's a different ball game entirely. Somebody was saying that, it's a joke, that a pastor, approached her and asked her in the presence of her siblings, elder siblings, how many boyfriends do you have?
Oh.
And because she was little and she was not very, not very knowledgeable, she went like, okay, she had 4 boyfriends. And the pastor said, okay, now you have the spirit of dog. So that spirit has to be, removed from your life and stuff like that. So it was later in life that she realized that the people she thought, she told the pastor that were her boyfriends were only people who were interested in her and were asking for a form of relationship. So later, when she had a better understanding, she got to know that no, these were not like actual boyfriends or people that she was in a relationship with. They were just people who were interested in her and all of that. Yeah. So the definitions and the situations are different and all of that. So for marriage, for instance, legally, when you're married to one person, that's it. You understand? Yeah. But when you're not married, some counselors will even tell you that, okay, well, it's a free will. You're trying to assess people to get to know, what people can bring on the table for you, or what values they can add to your life and all of that. So you're not particularly, tied to one person, or So the situations are different sometimes.
Ajab, what do you have to say to that?
You see, interestingly, what I found more interesting is that when you are with a partner and you are not married, you have to know that you are building a character. So the only difference between dating and marriage is that one day ceremony. So if you think that when you are dating someone, it's okay to have a backup to the same person, but after crossing that ceremony to the same person, you cannot have a backup. If you build that character before the bridge, after you cross the bridge, trust me, it will be difficult to go back to the normality. You understand? That is why we call it courtship. You are preparing yourself for the aftermath. What you do before, it is highly likely that you will carry it to the aftermath. In order not to put yourself in that possible temptation, why don't you try to learn to link to one person so that after you cross, you don't fall into that temptation of having a backup partner? That is my opinion.
Yeah, which is a very great opinion. That's why I stated that. For me, I think backup partners are only important or needed if you have open relationships, or for instance, the relationship you are in, it's not like there's no level of commitment.
Exactly.
There's no definition. You don't know where the relationship is heading to. If you don't know where the relationship is heading to, it's very much allowed, right?
Yeah.
Could what do you say?
Yeah, exactly. I was even going to, ask what is our definition, regarding this topic.
Partner,
what's our definition of backup partner?
Yeah.
You understand? What's the premise that we're setting for that? Yeah. So, like I said, the situations are different. If you have someone, if you're thinking about getting serious with someone, it's always good to put in all the hard work, and get committed to the person and all of that. But the trend nowadays is that trust is fast eroding, and it's difficult to actually trust people and all of that. But if you are willing to put in all the trust and the hard work in just one person, that's fine. If you want to place your eggs in different baskets and see the ones that give you the best returns and all of that, there are no rules that says you can do whatever you like. It's all about your happiness at the end of the day.
Exactly. Do you have any last words to say to that?
I think he sums it well. But on that ground, I will agree with him talking about the latter part.
Your happiness is what matters at the end of it all.
Because if you are with someone who doesn't commit, who always gives you room to doubt and all that, you have to prepare yourself.
I like the last thing Jabin said. If you're somebody who gives you all the anxiety, worry, and everything, you have to prepare yourself, right? Because you don't want to be taken unawares or anything of the sort. So, viewers, you heard everything our panelists had to say. Backup partner, it's not something that is needed if you're in a very serious, committed relationship and you know where the relationship is heading, then it's not necessary. And if you are married, that is even out of the equation. There's nothing like backup partner if you're married. But then if you're in a relationship where you don't know where it's heading to, you call the person doesn't pick up, the person never really calls you. You can be with somebody and for like a whole day, the person calls once or doesn't even call at all. Please, baby girl or baby boy, know that you need a backup partner just in case. And also, one thing I'll say is that if you're having backup partners, ensure you are not getting intimate, sexually intimate with them, because if you're doing that, that is more like you just sleeping around, which is something I don't think any of us would want to be tagged with. Thank you for enjoying this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So we are now here to discuss the main topic for today, which is the rights of the older people. What are the rights of the older people? We have our daddies, our mummies, our aunties who have worked for so many years. They retire at the age of 60. They get little but nothing at the end of the month. They still have to live. They have rights. Simply because they've stopped working doesn't mean they don't have rights. They are people. They are living. And everybody living has rights. What are their rights? And are their rights really protected? Do they really get to do and enjoy life as they would if they were younger than 60? Our panelists here will help us to dig deeper. And if there is any solution, I'm sure they would recommend something for UN, UNICEF, and all the big authorities out there to take it up and then work towards this. So my first question will go to Kojo. Kojo, can you walk us through some of the challenges that persons face in our society, the older persons? What are some of the challenges they face?
Well, thank you. Older people, top on the list is their physical and mental health.
Okay.
The human body deteriorates with time. Yeah, so definitely when old age kicks in, some health issues start coming up. It could be mental, it could be other parts of the body. For instance, sicknesses like dementia, like arthritis, very common with old people. And then when you look at the financial part, there's usually, for a lot of old people, and the demographics, or I mean, the statistics show that some of the poorest old people that we have, like 2/3 of the older people that we have in the world live in the low to medium income level countries. Yeah. So that means that when you talk about finances, the issue of financial insecurity, comes up. Yeah, and there are a lot of other issues that they have as they grow older.
Okay. Yeah. So, Ajaben, are there laws in our books that seeks to protect older persons from being discriminated against? First and foremost, do you think they are being discriminated against?
I think they are.
Okay, so are there laws in our books to protect them?
I'm afraid I cannot say for a fact that there are laws that directly connect or target the older people. But then there are laws that protect people generally in Ghana, which is quite unfortunate. Because when you talk about even our constitution itself, interestingly, there's an article in the constitution that talks about discrimination against people. It lists the elements, race, gender, nationality, whatever it is. It leaves out the older people. But then the constitution also seeks to protect people who are vulnerable. Interestingly, we leave the older people out. And these are one of the highly vulnerable people in society. So, of course, they are treated as part of any other person that you see. A 12-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 60-year-old, all of them are covered by the same laws, which is unfortunate. But then I can say for a fact that we don't have laws specifically that protect older people. There have been instances that our government officials have made pronouncement that they are considering bills and all that. The bill still remains in the background. We've not seen any of them come out yet. But for now, the law generally protects them just as any ordinary person. That is what I would say.
So it brings me to my next question, but then I think you even answered that. It's more like the older people in our society, their rights are not being protected. There's nothing set out for them.
Interestingly, you see, the fact is that some of us, when we are young, we make laws and forget about them. You see, it is always the older people who are complaining. You ask yourself, when these laws were made, you were young.
You did
What
not
did you do?
consider, yeah,
That is it. We
yeah.
forget to look ahead, and then we make laws, and then we leave. And when we get there and we realize we didn't cover ourselves here, then we begin to talk. This is the time that perhaps you and I, because in about 40, 35 years' time,
Yeah,
we will be there.
already old, yeah.
And then we are going to make the same complaints. So it's high time we also talk and then maybe get a specific law for them.
Yeah. That's good.
And another sad thing, with older people, some older people, is the case of isolation,
Yes.
and loneliness. Uh, the older people, the older they get, sometimes, some of their friends, like either,
Start passing on.
they've gone, or some, their kids also are no longer around. They've gone to form their own families and all of that. So the issue of loneliness, and isolation, and sometimes in this part of the world, the issue of abuse, and some of uh, the the misconceptions that we have about old people, especially female old people, that some of them are witches and all of that. Yeah, so these are some of the things that are very worrying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there are things that we need to take particular steps, as individuals, as a community, as a society, to address.
It is interesting. He just raised the point about some of them being accused. The older people are also facing problem of neglect and blame. Whenever something happens in a home that beats our understanding, we begin to point fingers. This thing is spiritual. If it is spiritual, we look into faces. You are 90. It's likely you are the one. So in a whole country like Ghana, we have Gambaga Rich Camp. And you
Yes.
go there and you see these old women over there, some of them ages 80. Instead of us to leave these people in the house and celebrate them, we keep them there thinking that whatever is happening is because of them. So this neglect and blame is also one of the serious problems that they are facing.
So it's more like the Gambaga witch camp you're talking about, and then there's one at Salaga.
Yeah.
The Salaga witch.
Yeah.
I've been there
Yeah.
before, and then it's very terrible.
And
These are innocent people. They are not witches. They are not.
And sometimes it even gets more worrying that when these people have their old people sicknesses, and it's not going away, then some communities feel like maybe it's some gods punishing them for some of the sins that they've committed while they were young or something. Whereas these are people who are like innocently sick, and they need, to be taken
Attention
care of.
and then.
Talking about sickness, talk about our hospitals also. There are some sicknesses and some people, when you take your grandmother or your great grandmother there and she's like 90 plus, they're like, oh, she's old. Let her go
She's
and die.
about to die.
You understand? It's like, even though we think that less attention should be given to these people because in our parlance we say she has tasted enough salt. That thing. Oh, you get that thing.
Yeah.
So these are some of the problems that they face, neglection here and there, and I think it's high time we address them.
Yeah, and I think they are being very much disrespected, even from the younger folks.
Yeah.
You see them talk to older people. As meanwhile, these are the people that built the nation that you are now enjoying, like you rightly said. The laws were set by them. So many things were done, and they took you into consideration. Because when they were making the laws, it was all about children and the vulnerable. And they get to that stage, and then they're being neglected and being disrespected. There's something that's very common in Ghana. I don't think it's like that in other parts of the world. Kojo, you are very well traveled. You will talk on that. In Ghana here, you go to the bank and other important places, so many places, and then you see an older person in a queue to withdraw money, pension money, which is not even any match. The person goes to the bank and the person has to queue. Is there nothing that can be done about that? Do you think it's right? It's not. For me.
Well, I don't think it's right either, because when you look at I think there should be one of the solutions to some of the issues affecting old people is that different sectors of society. For instance, talk about industry. You're talking about the banking sector, for instance.
Yeah.
The banking sector can decide that they want to have a policy
Yes.
for old people.
Yes.
For instance, in the airline industry, there's a policy for old people, the young people, the
Yeah.
pregnant, women, and all of that. Meaning that when you want to board a plane, they allow the old people to go first. They assist them.
Okay.
Sometimes they even have they have all manner of assistance that they give to them to ensure that they are able to travel safely. That same ideology or that same policy could be adopted by other sectors of society,
Yeah.
other parts of society, like the banking sector, for instance. They could have a policy that when you're an older person, when you come to the bank, you are served first, irrespective of the queue that is there. And there are some older people that probably have issues with movement. Maybe they're not able to walk well and all of that. The architecture of our banking halls, how is it constructed to be able to allow these people to travel in and out of the banking hall in a very a safe and very comfortable manner. Yeah, so the banking sector could do that. They could have that kind of policy, and other sectors could also adopt the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I would want
But
the two
but
of you.
okay, and to also add to that, I also think that as individuals, we need to talk to, or we need to reason within ourselves, and you know give preference to older people.
Yeah.
For instance, you are in a bus, there are no seats. Okay, well, in this part of the world, there are always seats. In some parts of the world, for instance, if you go to Japan or you go to other, parts of the world, I mean, you are in trains, and then there are seats, and then there are hang-ons and all of that. So you are a young person, you've been able to secure a seat for yourself. There's an older person who walks in. You don't expect them to, hang on there. Yeah, you stand up for them to sit and all of that. But there are no laws that say you should stand up. Yeah, you see. So and I think the same thing with the banking system that we mentioned. So somebody walks into a bank and is an older person. You could just the sense of reasoning should tell you that let me allow this person to be served first. Yeah. So.
All right. So my next question would be, in our service delivery system, okay, this goes to the two of you. In our service delivery system, what do you think can be done, okay, to ensure that the rights of these elder citizens, their dignity and everything is upheld? What can be done in our service delivery system?
So, for example, when we talk about the bank,
Yeah.
we can even say for a bank, we have about 9 tellers. There's one particular teller. His or her aim is to target older people. So if an older person is in the bank, whether he is the last, first, or middle, the person walks there and gets treated. It is only when there's no older person in the bank, then he treats or he takes care of other persons. The same thing can happen in hospitals. We can take positions or places or rooms or wards for the older people that the moment they enter, no matter what, they take this kind of. If we do that by ourselves, and we don't leave it to morality, because when we are talking about you, a young man sitting and getting up, this is morality. What is moral to you may not be moral to me. So whose morality are we going to use? You understand? So it's high time we make these policies, laws, and bills. Interestingly, as we are young, our parliamentarians are young, they don't care, but when they get there, then they cry.
Yeah, so I mean,
This is a wake-up call to the parliamentarians, the lawmakers. You are young now, but very soon you grow old, and then you may face some of these challenges.
Yeah, so whilst we're waiting for the parliamentarians to make the laws, or the banking sector, or whichever sector to sit and have policies, that would, help older people. It's just an appeal, a moral appeal to everyone, because, like, for instance, this Africa, we're always taught to respect the elder and all of that. Yeah, so it's a moral appeal to anyone to ensure that, I mean, when to treat the older person, with respect and dignity, and give them the first right of refusal in any situation, possible.
Yeah.
So.
Interestingly, now just a short one. Just now, the moral fabric of African culture is burning.
It's eroding. It's eroding. Yeah, you even see some young people would go like, okay, well, this person, what are you still doing alive?
It's getting hot in there, but we take a quick break. This show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs and also supported by Syllabi GH. It's a catering services. Contact them on Facebook or Instagram for all your catering services. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The next question I would want to ask is, in the absence of public policies and what the government or all those that are supposed to be the lawmakers, in the absence of all these laws that has not been implemented, do you think as citizens and as people we failed the older persons?
Yeah, like we were saying before the break that there's moral decadence,
Okay.
in the system, and moral fabric is getting eroded, by the day, and what used to be right is now considered neutral or whatever. Yeah, so. But as individuals, we have a right to the older people, especially when they're, our parents or relatives and all of that. So some of the things that we could do for them is to, check up on them regularly, help them with their health issues. Regular checkup in the hospitals. Take them to hospitals, make sure that their health is always being checked. If possible, even hire people to live with them. We spoke about isolation, loneliness, and all of that. Hire people to be with them. And sometimes these people, they say that wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in old age.
Yes.
Yeah. So these people have a lot to share. Whether they've lived in or worked in a formal setting or not. They have a lot to share. So we can tap into their depth of wisdom by getting closer to them, and all of that. So basically, we need to put, the responsibility at our own doorsteps.
Okay.
Ensure that we are closer to them. We try as much as possible to reduce the level of isolation.
Just a quick one, Kojo. Ejabin, I'll come back to you with the next question, which is more legal. I want to find out, do you think that as older people, there should be some policies or there should be some deliberate attempts by the government and the institution we find ourselves in to ensure that even after they go on retirement or there should be jobs, something to keep them occupied. Because if they are not working, I can tell you that even if somebody is like 80 and the person is useful, wakes up in the morning and is doing something, it keeps them a little active and not isolated or feel unwanted and all of that. Do you think this system can adapt it?
The system that we have, which since independence, more than 60 years ago now, hasn't even taken care of some basic, things that even the young people need. I really would not rely entirely on such a system to take care of all the issues for the older people. So I would that's
Call on
why
other stakeholders.
yeah. So the stakeholders, the primary stakeholder is the next of kin to the older person.
Yeah.
The immediate
Family.
the relatives and all of that. And what I think they could do is to encourage them to practice in a very relaxed and comfortable way what they used to do, when they were active in their active years.
Yeah.
For instance, if they used to work in the formal sector, they could become consultants.
Yeah.
They could become, they could do a lot of things in a very relaxed and comfortable way. That will keep them a little active.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
say something to that. For my dad, like this is my personal experience. For my dad, he's retired for so many years now. He's 73 now. And these are some of the things that keeps him active. But for the fact that he fell a little ill and became somehow weak. But when he recovered, he does all this, what you're talking about, some consultations here and there. He gets that. And even when he's not doing anything and it doesn't come, He travels to the village or he's farming. He's always farming in the house. You never see my dad idle. He will tell you, oh, don't worry, I'm not, there's a security man in the house, but he will tell you, oh, I'm the watchman of the house now. So he will just be going around, even in the night. He's always doing something because he's a northerner and naturally he loved farming. But for the fact that he was educated and had to do all of this formal, so he is still farming. Even when you don't want him to do it, he wants to do it.
Yeah,
there was a time he wanted us to prepare some green soup for him, and we all said we were tired. He didn't mind us. He actually went to the
To the farm and
kitchen,
then
he got the things,
stays
and
and
started
then-
doing it. And of course, he did it. It wasn't tasting well, so he ate it just one evening and didn't eat it again.
I hope he didn't have running tummy or something. Anyway, one
Yeah,
additional
so we
thing
should
that
do
we can,
something for them to keep them active.
we should encourage them to do what they love to
Yeah,
do.
yes.
You know, but in a very comfortable,
Relaxed
relaxed
manner.
Yeah, and then around the house, we should make movement very easy for them. Yeah, so probably we need to, do some modification to the house. Don't put, tables where on their pathway and all of that, and at least make them as comfortable as possible.
This is a call to the individuals and to the families. This is not something the government will do. This is something you and I will do. And as you can see, Kojo is talking more about the morality aspect, whilst Ejabin is talking about the legal aspect. And then Ejabin, being a lawyer, knows that you can't necessarily mix morality with legality. It doesn't always work like that. The next question will go to Ejabin. The United Nations is considering the creation of a convention to specify the rights of the older people. Do you think this is something that Ghana can adapt to ensure that older citizens are protected?
Of course, this is something Ghana can adapt. But the problem of Ghana is not with the adoptions of the law or the enactment of the law. It is about the enforcement. The law can be there and nobody will enforce it, of course. So it is. We shouldn't even wait for the UN to make these conventions before we adopt them. What are we waiting for? We can also make our laws to protect them. And if the UN brings something that is new to us, we adopt them into our laws. It makes it perfect. I think that is the best thing to do.
So in like a minute, say something to the lawmakers, the parliamentarians.
Well, our parliamentarians, this is an appeal to all of you that we have to think about when we get old and then work towards that time. So we can also enact laws that if later the UN brings out a law that will benefit us, but we have not taken care of, we can just incorporate them into our laws and then we move on with them, rather than wait for the UN all the time.
And in fact, I don't even think we need to wait for the UN. We just need to look at best practices around the world.
Exactly.
Look at the developed world. Look at what they are doing.
Yeah.
They have policies for their old people.
Yes.
There are old people's homes and all of that.
And that comes to the next question, what I was going to throw at you. Do you think there should be facilities, to house these older people, to make things easier for them?
Of course. I mean, protecting their rights also means that there should be a place of refuge for them. Nowadays when a little girl is being abused, there's a place she can run to. She can run to the police. She can run to, is it Dosu?
Dosu.
Yeah, and the other places like that. The older people, the ones that the ones that are being transported to Gambaga and the other places, they don't have anywhere else that they can run to. They don't have people or institutions or systems that can protect them. Yeah, so there's a need for us to have such systems in place, a place where they can run to for help in case they are being abused or victimized. Because sometimes we are appealing to people based on morality and all of that, and like the learned man said. I mean, legality is a different ballgame entirely, which I totally understand. In fact, some of the problems of these people are of the older people sometimes, are generated by their own relatives.
Yeah.
Especially in the case where they accuse them wrongly and all of that. So there should be a place where they can seek refuge. And all of that. So for homes, there should be old people's homes. There should be, a toll-free number they can call for help.
Yeah.
There should be maybe a set of counselors that could, even tell them and advise them on what they can do when they are old and things like that. There are so many things that could be done. Because like he also rightly said, one day we'll all grow old. In fact, every day we are growing old. Yeah, so it's just a matter of time. When we escape death in our young age, definitely we'll grow old and then these things will confront us.
And one thing I also think we should consider is that, this country has been built for the past years. And then those who built to where we are probably those who are old now.
Yeah.
So all the things that we see now are because of their efforts. We are yet to build and add some to it. So let not deprive them of what they've done, their sweat, and then just neglect them to that manner. So even on morality, a consideration of these factors should even induce us to work more towards their interest. Yeah.
So what you both said even sort of answers the next question, because I was going to ask that in Ghana, are there specialized bodies that these older people can go to in terms of help, or they could call or anything of the sort?
I
Do
don't
we
know
have
if he
any
knows
specific
one, but I don't know any.
Well,
specific
my
bodies?
research told me about the
Yeah.
Ministry of Gender, Social Protection and Children. That ministry, they said under the social protection, they have these. That is where the DOVSU and those elements comes in. And for example, we have LEAP. The older people too are eligible for the benefits under LEAP, so
Yeah.
they go there.
But
it's like
it's not
they go there
specifically for them.
No. So they go there to
Yeah.
compete with that
The young
18-year-old with a
people.
child. That's 16. So it's like it's an aggressive
So, and you
competition.
say because of the mindset of Ghanaians, it's more like if you are competing with an 18-year-old or a 7-year-old, they are going to tell you that, oh, like
You've
you've
eaten
already
enough
lived
salt.
your life,
You've
so
eaten
let's
enough salt.
concentrate on the younger
Yes,
one. But that's not it. For all you
Yeah.
know, you may be old, but then you are needed. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows why you are not dead and you are here. You may probably have something to contribute to the nation, and so they should be taken care of.
And interestingly, these people, I grew up with my mother's mother's mother. That is my great
Oh,
grandmother.
great grandmother, that's
Yes,
nice.
who died,
Wow.
yeah, she passed in 2014.
Whoa.
And when they leave, that is when you begin to realize their role.
Yeah.
When they are alive, we just
Exactly.
underestimate. But when
Yeah.
they leave, and from personal experience, we shouldn't wait.
Yeah.
We shouldn't wait. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll say a few things and then bring today's show to an end. Welcome back, cherished viewers. It's been a great time with you and then with the panelists. So moving forward, Kojo, can you tell us what advice would you give to us as the young ones who would soon be old? What advice can you give us so that it doesn't, should the government fail us, we will still be okay?
Well, Ghana, for instance, or most part of Africa, are still most countries in Africa are still either low to medium income level countries. So it means that the challenges are going to be there for some time. Yeah. So we're not expecting that the situation is going to change, overnight. The situation is not going to change overnight, meaning that a system for older people may not be in place in anytime soon. Yeah. So for every young person that is out there that is listening or watching, there's the need for us to prepare for old age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've mentioned some of the issues of old age. I mean, some of the challenges that face old people, like physical and mental health, like the case of isolation, abuse, financial insecurity, and all of that. So, as a young person, you want to list all that down and find a way to answer those questions. So, how do I ensure that when I'm old, I have financial security? So, it means that when you're working, you have to, ensure that you are you have a very good pension scheme or plan, and aside the normal government pension scheme and whatever, you need to have some for yourself on the side, maybe a private pension fund that, contributes to.
But Kojo, let me interject you here. You may have all of that. Again, I'll always use my dad as an example. I don't remember the last time my dad set foot in the bank. He doesn't go. He sends someone. He doesn't go to the bank because probably he doesn't want to go and stand there and queue. My dad has never been to the bank in a very, very long time. Yeah. So you may have all of those things in place, and then you go into the bank to cash your check, and then you go and meet a queue.
Exactly.
What do you say to that?
Yeah. So I was trying to build, that
before I interjected.
in a sequence. Okay. Yeah, because so when you're able to build a good financial base for yourself, when you fall sick when you're old, at least you'll be able to have some money to be able to take care of yourself. And aside that, you need to be able to build goodwill around yourself. among your relatives, and if you have kids, there are some people they decide they don't want to have kids. There are some they have kids and they train their kids well. So you train your kids well, you give them the best opportunities possible, so that when you need them in future, they'll be willing and ready to help you and all of that. So it's a combination of different factors and different preparations that the young person needs to do to prepare for old age.
Yeah, so the Kojo is telling us that as younger people, let's treat the people around us well. And also our children and our relatives. Let's just treat everybody well, because you never know when you would need them.
Because for instance, your dad could easily just call one of you, or one
driver,
of them,
like
whatever,
anyone around, really, and they will easily do it.
And the money is in the bank because they worked well for it when it was there.
Yes, Ijabin. What do you think are some of the ways? How can the government facilitate, or what can be done quickly?
Interesting. You see, already there are things being done. For example, just down upon me, NHIS. You see, when you are going to renew your NHIS, if you are depending on your age, you have some discount.
Yeah.
I think it should get to a stage where the person pays nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Free.
You understand?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be limited to NHIS. Other public facilities, electricity, water. Once it is proven that this thing was used by an older person coming to pay by himself, automatic discount will set in. We can set a threshold. All facilities used by older people, 30% discount.
Wow.
So these are some of the things that will motivate them to be happy to be alive. Sometimes thinking alone of their next meal and all these things kills them faster. So I think, and then again, we should make sure we pass a law. At least there should be a law, something that we can actually show to the people who abuse these older people that, look,
And the law
this is
should
what
be
they have.
implemented.
Interesting.
That's
Sure.
the issue with Ghanaians.
Sure. And as he's saying, for us, much as the two of us are outraged by the existence of Gambaka camp or which camp or whatever it is, right after here, it ends. We don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
We should rather be proactive and work towards what we say. We should walk the talk.
And not just talk the talk.
Yes.
Well, all too soon, we come to an end of another episode. It's been a great one, and thank you guys for being in the studio with us. Yes, so in the nutshell, it's more like there's morality and then there's the legality aspect of it. We have to do both. There has to be a combination between the two. As people, individually, let's have a deliberate effort, conscious effort to do something for other people around us. And even as we grow old, let's know that they were once young and they did certain things for us to be where we are today. So we owe them that responsibility, regardless of whoever it is. You owe the person that responsibility to do something great for the person. Should you meet an older person somewhere, know that at one point in time, he or she was young and probably much finer than you were and was earning better than you were. But circumstances put the person there. Because most of the time, their children are not around. They are either schooling or married or something. It's not that they are wicked or mean people. That's why their families are not around them. It's just circumstances that causes that. And then when it comes to the legal aspect, let's know that if other countries are doing it, we can also do it. Let's get a home for them. I know of a story of an older person who has a home, but then there was no one, so she was virtually living on the street. And that's how he died. Okay, if there is a home and the person feels isolated at home because all the children are not there, this person can be taken to that facility where they meet their older ones. These days, anytime my dad loses an older person, a friend, it's nearing my death, so we have to virtually shout at him, Daddy, stop saying that. You get it? So if they have a place where they can all be put, confined, and then they can mingle with their colleagues and not being disrespected by all of these younger ones, it would help. Let's do something about it as individuals, as a nation, as a global. We are one. Let's come together and do something for the older people because they deserve it. Anyways, if you enjoyed the show, which I know you did, please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay up to date with all the exclusive content and human rights. And please don't forget to subscribe to it so that anytime it comes out, and put your notification on, please. Some of you subscribe, but your notifications are not on. As you subscribe, make sure your notification is on so that anytime we start streaming, you will catch it live. It's being streamed on YouTube every Sunday at 7 p.m. Yeah, this show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and also supported by Syllabus Ghana It's catering services. They do a lot of catering services for all your cateringers. Please do well to contact them. To sponsor this show, please do well to contact any of the numbers below. Be a part of this show. You shouldn't even think about it. Just be a part. Sponsor it, and then let's take this human rights thing to a greater level. I'm Mama Nupe, and I hosted the Human Rights Talk with Nupe's.